Soul Disco exclusive. Unheard, unreleased, untold stories behind the music.
You're fantastic. I can maneuver from this end. I was born in a little town, a little Indian town called Stonewall. It's in the Mississippi, state of Mississippi. My people are indigenously from that area. And as far as the music is concerned, music was always rampant in our home. My father was a musician. However, he played the harp. He played the harmonica. But he's quite good at it. I wish he'd pursued it, but he didn't have that much faith, and he had 12 kids to raise, so he sought other means of employment. And so there, in the 50s, there was a migration to the north, or to the Midwest precisely, of black Afro-Americans, or whatever they called us at the time. They came north to work so that they could make a living. Things were pretty limited down there in Mississippi. So he moved north in 54. I think it was December of 53. And, December of 53, he moved north. So I was born in 53, and I must have been almost close to a year old, because I really don't remember it that well. But I do know we came to Wisconsin, the state of Wisconsin, where I'm residing now. And we started, just living a normal life. My parents were, forked out living for us. They attempted to do whatever, the American dream, raise their family. And so I was basically raised in the Midwest. But I went down, back and forth south because my grandparents lived there. So every summer when Dad got vacation, we would pile up in the car and go south and spend the 2 weeks that he had for vacation, and then come back north, of course, for school. So like I said, he was a musician. My mother sung, and we would do what we call a family thing. We would just get together after our meals on Sunday evenings. Pops would put out the harmonica, and Mom, we'd all get on the porch, and we'd sing gospels, hymns, and popular songs at the time. And this is how I first kind of started alluding to music. Most definitely my father, actually, because I just loved the way he played, and he thought nothing of it. It was just something that he could do. He was born with it, and so he never wanted to pursue it. My father was a very shy man and a very independent man. And he wasn't made it anyway because his people skills were very limited. He just basically kind of stuck with his family, and that was pretty much it. So yes, I would say they were my first influence. And then when I became around 11 years old, my cousin Lawrence came and moved in with us. He came from the South. He wanted to come north as well and try to make a living for himself. And he played guitar. So, of course, that was an influence on me as well. But the thing that really made me want to pursue it was when I was about 15 years old, 14 or 15. My sister, my oldest sister, she would always go to the shows. We had the shows at the Coliseum in Milwaukee and in Chicago. And at that time, there was a really big influence. There was a lot of inspirational music going on, Curtis Mayfield, the Staple Singers, all that kind of stuff. Well, I had the pleasure of going with them to the Milwaukee Coliseum to see a guy by the name of James Brown. 14 years old. I'm in the, and I'm watching the hardest working man in show business, and I was blown away. I mean, never would I have thought I would be doing something similar to that, or, being on stage, because nothing similar to what he does. I mean, this guy, he sweats off 10 pounds every show. But that kind of grabbed me, Nadine. That kind of grabbed me. And from that point on, of course, do what all the young men in America, in the Midwest especially, do. We start a band, we start learning to play, and we start honing our skills. And when we got good enough, we'd go out and try to play shows. That's how it all started for me. It was just some things that me and my brother Jonas did. My brother Jonas and James. We were kind of like the three, it was me and then James and then Jonas. We kind of took after music. My older two brothers, they didn't really, they kind of did like Dad did, just got jobs and worked. But I never thought it was good enough. However, that was, I think, some of the body of work that Barry heard, and I think that's one of the reasons why he signed me, but I just never, I'm very critical of my work, which is why there's a lot of things that I've done that's not out, because I'm very critical of it. But over the years, I've learned to relax and accept that I'm an artist and I'm making an expression. Artistic expression is not you in a competitive or critical sense. You as an individual, you express yourself. And if the world gets it, then that's fine. If they don't get it, well, then that's fine as well. There'll be things that they'll get, and there'll be things that they won't get, correct? We were evolving. The nation was evolving in the area of audio, pro audio. And they started experimenting with, the Beatles used this old concept where they did a lot of their stuff on 4-track. At that time, you had the 4-track deck. I believe it was the Tascam something, I forget what it was, but it was a reel. And you could actually multi-track. And we were experimenting with that. And so we found an old multi-track in a pawn shop. And then one time, one of the students in Chicago, he liked this and he just gave us one. He said, look, take this. I don't have the outboard equipment for it. And I don't have all the hookups and things. He said, but if you guys, this is an integral piece of the puzzle. Take this and see what you can do. So, of course, we cut grass and watched cars and did everything. We had a paper route, and we did everything we could do to build our own little garage studio. And that stuff was done in my dad's garage, which we amicably called the Black Hole. I believe it was the spring of '73. I just got fed up with Wisconsin, and I told my mom and dad I was going to a place called Gateway Tech. It's like a very popular, how would you say it? After high school, then there's the 2-year schools, and then there's the 4-year schools. The 2-year school we called, we had a name for it, but I can't think of it right now, maybe. I just woke up and I got all these claws in my head. But anyway, I was going to Gateway Tech, taking business administration and electronics. And I did that about 6 months, and I said, nah, this ain't going to get it. So it must have been either the spring or summer of '73. I told my mom and dad, I said, that's it. I'm not going to let you waste your money. I don't want to do this. I want to pursue music. And my father says, well, okay. He says, you know what? He says, that's not good. You should finish your education and then pursue music. And I said, well, Dad, by that time, I don't know where I'll be in my head, But they reluctantly said, okay. And my father handed me, I believe it was $80. That's all he had to spare. And I already had my ticket because a couple of my friends I grew up with and went to school with, their mother had moved to California. And she always felt that we could do well there. So she got tickets for me and her 2 boys. And I took the bus to Los Angeles. And, about what, I think I was like 18 and a half or 19, something like that. And went out there and went to her house. They lived in Compton, of all places. This was pre-Dr. Dre, pre-Ice Cube, pre-NAA. I seen all that stuff come together. But at any rate, that's when I went. And so I hung around Compton for about 3 months, and got the kind of the feel of the Los Angeles County. You know what you do when you go to the studio, you're just in awe of everything. I mean, it's a huge place with all these personalities and these, situations and things. But I knew that what I wanted to do wasn't in Compton. So believe it or not, Nadine, I used to walk to Hollywood, which is quite some distance. You have to get up at 5 in the morning. I'd be in Hollywood about maybe 8 o'clock. And then I would walk the streets of Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood Boulevard, Melrose, Santa Monica, just to kind of get the layout. Well, and then even when we had bus fare, we'd take the bus. But this basically is how it went. I think I did it twice. All the rest of the times I was able to get bus fare there. Hang out in the city all day long and catch the bus back to Compton at night. Well, what happened was Miss Boyd's husband, he was kind of an alcoholic, and he would go on these binges and stuff, and she was as sweet as she could be, but he didn't really like us there, or just for lack of any other reason to fight with her, he would create, So she said, don't worry about him, just let him do his thing, we're going to be all right, but we could no longer put her through that, so that caused us to seek other, housing arrangements. And what we did one day, we took the bus to Hollywood. We got there early, and we said, look, at that point, my brother Jones had came out as well. He came to California. When I say we, that's what I'm alluding to. And so we knew that we could never go back. We packed our little bag, which was one duffel bag, actually. Now, imagine us walking around Hollywood, hiding our duffel bag in certain places we figured nobody would find it. And we just try to appear normal, But at any rate, we went to a car wash. I believe that car wash is the one they featured in that movie, Car Wash. But before that, that car wash existed for a long time. I don't think they're there now, but they may be. But we went there and we got jobs, and the guy says, okay, he gave us the spiel. We told him what we were trying to do. He says, okay, I'll help you. I'll give you a job. So the first night, we worked that day, and that night, we slept on the bus bench. We'd hide in the little bus thing and try to just be as incognito as possible. The next day when we went to work, we were dragging. The guy said, what's wrong with you guys? You're kids. You should have plenty of energy. And so we told him what happened. So the guy had his own rules, and he said, listen, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pay you guys by the day. That way you can pay for your room. When you get home, every night when you go back to the hotel, or motel actually, you can pay for your rent, and you'll have enough to eat with, and then it was a catch-22 at best, but, that's all we had. And we were doing that, and to answer your question, in the process of that on our time off, we walked the boulevards and look at all the Indian record company and 20th Century Records, and Barry had a production company on Sunset and La Brea, right next to original Arco Bow's Original Sound. Very, very hot and very popular place in Hollywood, old Hollywood. And so we were passing by one day, and one of Barry's general managers came out and said, who are you guys? And Jones had his guitar. He had his guitar in the case, strapped to his back. We're walking him down. We're staring at the building that said Most Soul Productions. So we're trying to figure out what that's all about. And then this guy came out. He saw us. I guess they could see us from the window because the frontal offices were two big glass windows. I wish they'd left that building. That was a great place. But anyway, he came out and asked us what we did. And we told him, we said, well, we're just, I told him I was a singer. And my brother played guitar. And we were trying to, make some music. And he said, oh, really? So he said, hey, guys, you want to have some coffee? So we went up to Denny's. It was not too far up the street. We had coffee. He asked us to know. We were so excited to meet somebody that's, with Barry. So we was just, I think at that point Barry had I'm Never Gonna Give You Up, I believe, was his hit at the time. Or I Got So Much to Give. One of those two, maybe. And my memory, that's a long ways back. But at any rate, Barry had charted. He had charted with 20th Century. And so after coffee, he says, I want you guys to come back with me. I want to hear what you do. So we went into Most Soul. I met Larry Nunes, Barry's the guy who made Barry White, as far as I'm concerned, and Lori Fernandez, his comptroller. And we went back in these back rooms they had set up for you to do auditions. And we did our thing, and Tony was blown away. Looked at me, and we knew people have a tendency to tell you one thing, yet it be another. And so, but we rolled with it. We went with it. And he says, look, I want you to come back tomorrow. I want to talk to some people about you guys. So, of course, we went to work, and we asked the guy, could we get off about 3 o'clock, because we had an appointment at 4 o'clock. The guy was understanding. He said, I'm going to dock you, but you guys can go, you know. So we left and went back, and Tony introduced us to Larry Nunes. Like I say, the guy who, he was a rack jobber in the old days, back in the old days when the business model of doing business in music was a little different. I mean, they basically stocked the stores with records. That was their role, you know. And so I met Larry Nunes, a beautiful guy, became lifelong friends. His son and me were the same age, and so we became very dear friends. We just lost Mike not too long ago, Nadine. Mike died, and that was a terrible blow. But anyway, Michael Nunes, I met Larry Nunes, and Larry Nunes says, he says, they seem to like you guys. He says, let me give it some thought. You know, maybe we can find some room around it for you. Okay, now at that point, Nadine, when I met Tony, every day Tony would come by and see about us. And he says, you know, first of all, you guys need to get a place. This motel is not going to get it. He says, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to look for jobs, good jobs so you guys can afford to get you an apartment. So we said, okay. So we did that car wash thing probably about another month. And eventually Tony says, I tell you what, he says, I got a place my buddy's moving out of. You guys can stay there because his lease is not out for 2 more months. Okay, so what happened was he said that you could move there. He said, but you guys are going to have to help him move out if you want to sleep there tonight. The guy was named Sterling Peter Radcliffe. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Sterling was a writer that worked with Barry White over the years. In fact, Sterling was kind of like to Barry what Tony then was to me. He kind of took him under his wing and looked out for him, fed him, made sure he was okay. And so when Barry made it, he gave Sterling a job as court jester, also as writer. Actually, Sterling wrote Barry's biggest hit, which was First Class and Everything. Sterling wrote that. Sterling, a few years back, when did he was 77. I forget now. But he became a lifelong buddy as well. So we had our own little clique, you know. At any rate, so when we were moving, on the third move, Sterling's son, Dennis Radcliffe, he's known as Magnum Peon on Twitter. That's Sterling's son, Dennis Wayne Radcliffe. We became dear friends, too, because we're all in the same age back. We were all kids at that time. And so when we took the third, we were taking another load to the valley. Now, we're moving from Hollywood to the San Fernando Valley. I believe it was North Hollywood. We moved him to North Hollywood, you know, over the canyon. And, you know, and so the third time we moved, when we got back to, you know, get paid and everything for our work, because Sterling said he would pay us, we saw this big burly guy sitting on the bar stool. And I looked at my brother, and he looked at me, and Wayne knew who he was, because Wayne, like I said, Sterling and Barry went all the way back to when Barry was in his 20s, or 20 years old. In fact, Sterling saved Barry one time because Barry had stolen his TV. Barry was a second-story artist. He was the only guy I knew who could go up a ladder and take a 25-inch TV to other people's house. Anyway, so we met him, and he said, hey, guys, and that big booming voice, and he goes, hey, he says, how you guys doing? And we said, oh, just fine, sir. And I'm pissing in my pants because I'm just so in awe of this guy, you know. You got to understand, I'm just a young guy, a kid from the Midwest who never saw any stars other than seeing James Brown. He was on stage. The Shy-Lights, they were on stage and things like that. I even saw Michael and them when they were babies. They came and played Our Town or Scene at the Masonic Temple, and Michael was doing Jackie Wilson covers and James Brown and things like that. But I'll never forget, because the Jacksons went from point A to point B in a Volkswagen bus, traveled around. They set their group up, and it was like 4 pieces at that time. It was them, they had a cousin or somebody on organ or keyboards or whatever, and they put on the show. So I got a chance to see Michael Jackson when he was, maybe 9 years old, I believe he was. And they had a hit out at the time called, the story, Motown has the story written one way, but that's not the truth. The truth of the matter is the first hit Michael Jackson ever had was Big Boy. You got to hear it. It was a very interesting record. If you can find it, it's called Big Boy. I'm a big boy now looking for someone to love, oh yeah, someone to share my dreams, oh yeah. And they basically go, anyway, but that was their first hit. But back to answering your question, that's kind of how I met Barry White. He didn't hear me then. I met him that night. But he told me, he says, guys, he's out. No, let me finish telling you the story. So Sterling got ready to pay us. So Sterling goes in his wallet, and he's the original Mr. Cheap guy. He reaches out and hands us each $20. Me, my brother, and Wayne. And Barry saw that, and Barry was always, Sterling was kind of like his buddy, but they had their ups and downs. He says, you cocksucker, you. He says, you mean to tell me these kids done worked all that, and you want to give them $20? Barry says, give it back to them. And so we gave him the money back. And Sterling said, well, Barry, that's all I have. What do you expect me to do? Sterling was kind of a whiner. And Barry reaches in his wallet, Nadine, and pulls out 3 crisp $100 bills. That's when I met Barry White. He handed me one, he handed Jonas one, he handed Wayne one. Wayne's just laughing because he's like, first of all, he loved when his dad gets outdone. Because he says, Sterling he was the only abortion that ever lived. That's what Wayne thought of his dad. But we had some fun times, maybe, and I'll tell you, in those days, we were all young, innocent. We didn't have a clue, just meandering in and out of Hollywood and living the Los Angeles lifestyle. But that was the best time that Los Angeles. I think the 70s was Los Angeles at its height. So that's how I met Barry. So Barry says, I want you guys to come. I want to hear what you guys do. So later on that week, I think we went and did an audition for him. He said, yeah, I liked it. And at that point, he said, I'll get with you. He didn't sign me right away. I probably was in and out of his office almost every day for the next 30 days. I guess they had to get to know me, and you know how they do. They just don't jump. But what happened was Sid Garris, his music director, Sid Garris was the manager of the New Christy Minstrels at that time, but he also managed Barry White. He heard us that day. We auditioned. He liked us. So when Sid made a pitch to sign us, that's when Larry and them came for us. Said, no, these guys belong to us. And that's when Larry Newman signed me to an exclusive contract. Those 4 years, those years were, I guess, my training and all the politics that go along with it. I was almost just ready to give up because I said, this ain't going to happen, But over the years, I learned I learned the game. I learned the music industry. I had a chance to meet some illustrious people. I cut my teeth in Los Angeles as a young man, so I guess they were trying to just get me ready. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. But at any point, starting in 1976, Barry would, after he started, he said, we're going to do an album. And sometimes we'd go to sessions, and he'd do his session work. And at the end of the day, he'd tell the guys, I need you guys to stick around another 20 minutes. And he would throw my tracks together. So Barry White Presents Danny Pearson was a collage of music that I had written and he had written, and we just kind of threw it together. Cut the rhythm, and when we got 8 sides together, he says, okay, that's it. Because you could see I was getting a little nervous and because I knew Barry could just go in and cut it, but he didn't do it that way. He always threw my work on his sessions. Barry was kind of frugal that way. At any rate, one of the guys I became very dear friends with, I call him my big brother, was an arranger by the name of Gene Page. Oh, he is like, Gene is awesome. I've never met, there are three arrangers that come to my mind when I think about my time in the industry. Gene Page, Tommy Bell, and I would say Curtis Mayfield. Really, these three guys were so unique to me. I mean, they were just born geniuses, you know. But Gene was like, I had the pleasure of becoming very dear friends, very close friends with him. I mean, we raised his kids. I mean, Chris and Jen was like, they were babies at the time. And I watched them grow and became very, I mean, I stayed in Gene's mansions for long periods of time. When Gene would go to Europe, he'd say, Danny, I need you to keep I'm going to give you the Mercedes and I want you to watch my house. I don't want anybody stealing my Persian rugs. He buy a Persian rug that cost $90,000. And he was afraid that when he was away, people, but they would do that kind of stuff. Hollywood Hills were always looted, you know, Beverly Hills. I mean, if you're away too long, the service people, the people that keep the grounds and all that stuff, I think they had a lot to do with it. They would tell the right people and they'd just go and rob you, you know. And so that gave me free rent for a few years because I was always staying in somebody's mansion, you know. Throw it together, and we were using the best guys around at the time. I met and became very dear friends with Ray Parker Jr. He was one of our guitarists. There was Don Peake, very dear friend. He was Don's like an industry cornerstone. People like Gary Coleman, who played percussion. Wilton Felder, who played bass. He was with the Jazz Crusaders. We took a mix mash of all the best musicians. That's what Barry would do. And would book them to do his sessions, and they became the Love and the Orchestra. Don Peake, and I'm trying to think of him. Oh, this guy's he'd be hurt if he knew how to consider his name. We also brought Nathan East into the game. Nathan East was a kid from, from San Diego. And Gene started using him on sessions, and now he's Nathan East, the famous bassist. Lee Ritenour, we used Lee. That was basically the rhythm set. Wah Wah Ragan, Melvin Wah Wah Ragan. They consisted of the rhythm for the London Victor Orchestra, my work as well, and everything. All Barry's projects are done that way. Barry would throw my stuff on at the end of his stuff, and so over the course of 3 years, he compiled enough for us to go in the studio and finish it. So he told Gene one night, he said, Gene, I got 8 sides. I want you to put the charts together for. So Gene took it home, and he told me, he said, Danny, I need you to run for me now. I'm going to write your charts tonight. So Gene did 4 charts one night, and did 4 charts the next night. And so during the night, I'd run stuff for him, like run and get him, you know, soda, or run just, you know, he basically wanted me to hang around to hear what he was doing. He sat at the baby grand piano that he had tucked away on this little bungalow on Highland Avenue. If you saw what Gene Page wrote his music, you wouldn't believe it, maybe. It was just a little old rundown. It wasn't rundown, but I mean, there was these bungalows that was early circa 1920s Hollywood, located on Highland Avenue between Sunset and Santa Monica. Actually, DeLongpre and Highland, that corner, they were located there. So right up the street was Hollywood High. So it was the perfect location, and it was just rustic enough for Gene to write. And Gene wrote some of the biggest things that ever was there. Elton John's work he did there. Sinatra, he did all the Jackson's work there. He did, the list of Barbra Streisand, Johnny Mathis. In fact, a lot of the stars that I had met at that time, I met being in Gene's office, at Gene's spot. So, you know, I never forget Johnny Mathis gave me the shirt that he wore on that album. There's that red shirt with the white lines. He said, "Say, kid, I got something for you." So he gave it to me, you know, and I guess it just came from the cleaners or something. And he wanted to impress me, and he wanted to show favor. So he gave it to me right off the rack, maybe. Yeah. Gloria recorded it first. But the thing is, you see, the way Barry worked, you would write so many songs, Then he would put songs that he wrote on your album. That was kind of their way of padding the books. So that song had many variations. My version is my version, and Gloria's version, of course, she used the word boy. And so that's how that happened. But Gloria was an awesome artist. I mean, I loved her voice. I loved Gloria. Some kind of way she got caught up in the politics. And I never thought it was fair. That was my first inclination or understanding of how the music business works. Because they shelved that second album, and I really don't see why Barry did that. I really don't. I never did. Gloria was coming off a hit called, Who's the Lightweight hit, but it was still a hit. It was very popular on the radios. It was called As Long As We're Together, you know. I think she did do Soul Train. I'm not really sure. Maybe I can't really remember. We were like different. Barry had his artists as kind of separated. You know, Gloria came from Los Angeles. I was from the Midwest. I had my crew. She had her crew, you know. And I'm not, all I know is we meet together at the office. Sometimes we see each other and we greet each other and stuff like that. I know Gloria. I don't know Gloria personally. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know that. All I do remember is that I never understood why that they didn't go further with her. She wasn't the only artist. I was one of the few artists that Barry ever put out. In fact, I never understood why Barry, you know, put his name on my album. I never understood why he used me when he had all these other artists and stuff that he could have used. But when we signed the deal for Unlimited Gold with Columbia, it was a custom label deal with Columbia. I believe it was Pearson distribution. That was the very first song. Barry says to me, "You got to write, Daddy." He said, "You got to write." I said, "But I'm a singer." And I used to mimic other singers. I would do my Smokey Robinson, my David Ruffin and all. And Barry said, "Oh, that's well and fine." He said, "That got you in the door. But what's going to keep you paid and in the door is if you write your own stuff." I said, "Barry, I'm not a writer. I don't know what to write." He said, "Write what you feel." So I remember leaving his office, and I went to Green Blast to get me one of those hot pastrami sandwiches. And you know, I saw this girl. And Nadine, I tell you, when you see a female, from a man's perspective, when you see a female that embodies God's good side, like when God made her, he was like that particular day, he was on and popping, so to speak. She was absolutely beautiful. I mean, gorgeous. And I looked at her and I said, this girl's got such a pretty face. So I went home that night and started, you know, doing that. And I knew it. That's what I had. You see how simple the lyrics are. It was the very first song I ever wrote. I don't really believe in a lot of, I think we can crowd music too. It should just be simple and sweet, I think. But yeah, we lost it because that was Sandra. Sandra just happened to call. That was Barry's sister, and I told her about you. I said, on the phone with Miss Nadine Steffens, and she represents an online presence at a magazine in Germany. She was excited. She said, "Oh, wow, great, great, great." So I was telling Sandra, I said, "Sandra, we're talking about how it all came together." And Sandra laughed. She said, "Daddy, just tell her, give her my love, and keep the ball rolling." But anyway, I thought by doing that, put you on hold. I'm not that familiar with this messenger of Nadine. So I'm learning how to use it now, so forgive me. Well, you know something, Nadine? I have to say this. I am a pro-audioist. Raspy voice and all. Nadine, you really hit it on the head. Barry was a great guy. I think it happened like he was overwhelmed. And he wasn't the type of person that would give it to someone else, hand it. He wasn't a handoff person. There was a lot of people poised to do that, but he just wasn't. He wanted to make sure it had his signature touch. So I really kind of like got in there in the nick of time because I think I was the last artist, the only artist that he signed that actually charted with our own label. And the last artist, I believe, that he signed, I think he dabbled a little after that, but nothing, you know. I don't remember him signing anybody else. At any rate, you're right. He was just completely overwhelmed. Okay, maybe a lot of people don't know this, but let me tell you something intimate about Barry White. Barry White's idea of the music business was never for him to be an artist. Barry never wanted to be an artist. God gave him this gift, He had this unique voice and gravitated toward it. But that wasn't what Barry wanted to have a record company. He wanted to be the mogul and the CEO of his own record company. And that's what he really wanted. He wanted to have a slew of artists. I remember him telling me once, he said, Daddy, I would like to redo the Motown story, only do it the right way. You know? I knew this question would come. I don't really have a favorite song. Maybe, believe it or not, I never liked that album. In fact, I hated it. That's why I never owned a copy of it. That whole experience was, I have to remind myself that this was a unique opportunity and that this was something that was, that happened and it changed the course of my life. But I never liked it because I was during that time, you remember now, I came out of rhythm and blues, a rhythm and blues background. Barry had the orchestra. I never dug the orchestra thing. I hated that, because I felt that it drowned out the meaning of the song, drowned it out. To me, classical and instrumentals are one thing, and R&B is another. But, that's my boss. I had to go. I don't know how David is now, but he played guitar. He was also a part of the Living Orchestra, the assembly anyway. I mean, they were never assigned as that. We just called them that. They were known as the Living. These are all musicians in their own right. David and me did What's Your Sign, Girl. He played beautiful acoustic guitar on it. We took it to Barry, and we said, Barry, what do you think? And Gene loved it, but Barry hated it. So he didn't go with it. He hated it to the point where he turned David down so much in the mix, Nadine, that you can't even hear David. And I will never forget that. We captured the song. What Barry did, he commercialized and made it work. Of course it worked, but I think it would work so much more better if we had did it the other way. So, I don't really have a favorite song, to be honest with you. Every time I would allude to anything, it was just stamped out. And so later on, when I used to read these accounts with artists talking about why they left the label because they had no musical control over anything, that they took their music and they changed it and all that, I could sympathize with these people because I understood that. But you have to understand, it wasn't always done in a negative sense. These people had the unfortunate job of making this all come together and make money. They're not in it for the music. Musicians and artists are in it for the music, basically, if they have passion for it. But these record companies, they don't care anything about passion. All they want is to see the bottom line. They need to make money. So this sound was hot. Barry had a hot sound. I believe the people that he answered to wanted to make sure that they were going to recoup their investment because it was a sizable amount of money being gave Barry. I never knew what was involved till years later, but I believe Columbia gave Barry $7 million to start that label. So through greed and all that kind of stuff. I never saw the money, but Barry had some bad people around him at that time, and I think he tried to drown himself in his work. But they were just so into him that, slowly but surely he worked them out. I mean, he rooted them out. But some really bad people, a lot of mismanagement of funds, a lot of things. All that man wanted to do was have a successful record company, a successful production company. He wanted to be able to say that he brought forth a lot, shaped the course of history through music. And he felt the best way for him to do that would be through, in that manner. However, like you said, he became so huge that he had the responsibilities of being a hit artist, and, well, you know how that goes. And it doesn't take much to fall over the wayside because it's overwhelming as it is. It's already overwhelming. So when you get added things, added stress, it doesn't help the situation at all. Well, I'll tell you, at that time, things had pretty much taken its course. Okay, so at that time, I had enough. I'm the only person that ever actually left Barry White. And I really never left him, but I just walked away. And I didn't see Barry for 3 years after that. because Barry had made a lot of promises he didn't keep. And I'm a young kid at the time, and I didn't understand that. Where I came from, word is bond. You know what I mean? If you say that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do. And we had came off of a major tour, and Barry told me, he said, Danny, the next package I'm going to let you produce, because he could see that I was very distraught about how my first production came out. But he said, I have to put my signature on you to give it validity. He said, the next time out, and at that time I was like, kind of following Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards and all the Chic. That was the sound that I was into, and of course all the rest of the proponents of R&B at that time. And then when we got back off tour, next thing I know, Barry said, we're going to start the album now. He said, Dan, he said, I have to tell you, I have to produce this one. But the next one, I promise you're going to do. Well, I was sick. Because I didn't think that sound would survive, Nate. And it was more of a business decision for me than anything. I said, I'd rather come off a successful hit, and never be heard of again, than to put something else out and bomb, or just makes, what I did the first time, tarnish it, So one morning I went over there and I said, Barry, I said, you promised me 3 things, you never kept your word. I said, number 1, you promised me the motorhome, because I wanted to live on the beach, Nadine. I was a young kid. I wanted to be in Santa Monica Beach in my motorhome, camping out, opposed to being in Hollywood in the thick of it. And that didn't happen. And I think a lot of that was he was concerned about my safety. So, and another thing he promised that didn't take place, he was going to straighten out everything where people could put their names on my song, because I'm a solo writer. I write all my own stuff. But names were put on my song for political reasons. And, like if they want to throw some money to somebody, very popular at that period of time, your executive producer is nothing but the person who kind of brought it all together. He's getting paid for contributing nothing musically, but politically, they would contribute. And of course, that was the way of getting paid. And I didn't want that anymore either. I wanted to be known for what I wrote, And then when he said I couldn't produce the next album, well, I just walked. I flew to New York. I went and saw him that morning. I had a 6:30 flight to New York. And I said, Barry, I says, I came here with nothing. I says, and I've spent all this time, and I'm very unsatisfied with the outcome and stuff. I said, I wasn't in it for the money. I'm in it for the passion. I figured the money would come. He said, but Danny, that's the way it goes. And so I said, well, okay. And we never had bad words, because when I saw him again, he almost broke my neck in me, because I was one of the ones that was around him, Nadine, that was true. I didn't lie to Barry. I didn't say, Barry, that sounds great, but it didn't sound great. If he sent me to do something, it was done with precision. Barry was like a father to me, and I loved him dearly. That's why it hurt me so bad. But I don't really know the ins and outs of that. All I know is that I couldn't take it anymore, because I couldn't stand the people that had gravitated toward him. I mean, there was a lot of bad people in this camp, and I think Barry would be with us today, and I think that a lot of things would have been different had the stress of that whole situation hadn't came down so hard on him. So I walked. I'm the only guy that ever left Barry White. Everybody else he fired. Everybody else he fired. Larry Nunes and Barry were partners, but he never fired Gloria Scott. I think Gloria Scott eventually just walked, because nothing was, you're an artist, you're on a label, if you're not doing anything with your material, what do you do? Eventually, you seek other, ways of getting it done. Poor Gloria, I think, got caught up in the political social thing. Glodine was a very selfish woman, and she was a very self-centered woman, and she didn't want any females around Barry. I mean, I can tell you the account when Glodine was on the way to the studio, and Chaka Khan was there. Barry had wanted to work with Chaka Khan for many years, and Glodine just abhorred that. She just couldn't, no way, because she felt she owned Barry, and Barry used to have so many problems with that. She'd come, and Glodine was a pistol-packing kind of hard kind of lady. She was kind of scary to the average female. And I remember Sterling Ratcliffe wrote Chaka. Glodine said, I'm around the corner. They went out the back door, and she jumped on. Sterling came to the studio that day, Whitney Recording Studios in Glendale, California. And he took her back to Hollywood on the back of that scooter, that Vespa. Can you imagine that? They got out of there, boys, because She didn't want no problems. And like I said, Gloria was the kind, she'd throw that purse on the council and pull out that gun, and that was it, you know. I mean, that she was a real gangster, you know. Sure. I'm going to tell you like it is because I want the true story to be told. There's a lot of things been said and stuff, but it's not the truth. You're going to get the truth from people like me, Al Denny, Sandra White, the people who really saw it come together, the people who really were there. Everybody else is just giving you their rendition, but maybe it was a torrid venture, to say the least. Columbia and them had to explain so I don't know what they put out. I don't know what type of press they put out or anything. I didn't care. I was done with the music business. I gave it all I had. I figured it's time to try to do something else. And so all I know is that the only video that I know of was I did the scene in Detroit, which was before Donnie Simpson blew up and became BET, became part of the anchor of BET. And I did Soul Train twice. And other than that, any other footage would have been, that was pre-smartphone days. I just never, that experience it was a nightmarish experience for me. That whole experience was. And so I just never really, I just basically was trying to forget it, if you want to know the truth. But I'm so glad that me and Barry got back hooked up. And the last time I saw Barry, I went on tour. Barry was playing the South, and I was in the South at that time. Barry came to Atlanta, and so we came to the show and everything. But the first time I saw Barry after I left, and I left in 1980, was 3 years later, I saw Barry at a club in Memphis, Tennessee. That's where he met Catherine, that woman he was with up until the end. It was a little place, and he was there. And my brother Jonas told me, he said, Danny, because Jonas was living in Memphis at the time. I was living in Atlanta, and he said, I want to take you somewhere tonight. I got a treat for you. I didn't know what he was talking about. I thought he was going to go and show me some motorcycles and stuff. But he picked me up, and he says, come on. And we went to this club. And I said, what are we stopping here for? He said, I don't need to tell somebody something, and then we'll go on. Well, we got out of the car and went in, and the next thing I know, there was Barry sitting on the bench there signing autographs. Barry came up and hugged me. And he said, D, I really miss you, man. I said, Barry, I miss you too. And he almost broke my back, maybe. He's big, you know. He hugged me so tight because I think he recognized that people who dearly loved him wasn't there for the money, wasn't there for the fame, but somebody who dearly and ingenuously loved him, genuinely loved him. We were very happy to see each other. So we decided we were going to get together again and do some stuff. And not too long after that, Barry started getting sick. And I remember him telling me, I went to California to see him after he came off tour. Me and I took my baby brothers with me so they could see California. And I went to the house, and we had a nice time. Don Cornelius was there, and I was playing Barry this track that I'd written called We're Living in the Hades. And Barry loved it. And he said, what do we need to do? And I said, well, Barry, I have no tools. You afforded me the best studios in the world. Now I'm on my own. I don't have no tools. He says, I'm going to go to the studio and grab some stuff and give it. And I want you to take it home, and I want you to put some things together. We're going to run with it, Danny. He said, because go home and do it because you got to pay for the sunlight out here. And I guess Barry was kind of financially strained at that time, too, because I'm so used to Barry putting this up in some fancy place and letting us get it in, you know. But and that was actually the last time I saw Barry alive. Though the next time I didn't see Barry was when we threw his ashes at sea, and all the things that went along with it. I mean, I was kept up to date by people that was intricate in his inner circle, and but there were those of us who truly loved Barry, and there were those who were just on the take. And Sandra is, she was devastated. High school, she came and she went to work for him as an intern, learning the business. And Barry was, Sandra ran the office. I mean, her and Lori ran that office. All the monies, everything that took place in terms of the business behind Barry White, Sandra White was a part of. My mother's people were from New York, so I went to New York and just hung out with my cousins for a couple of years. I didn't have any money. I mean, at that point, I wasn't seeing any of my statements. I didn't start seeing a statement until 83. Another devices moved by Gloria. Gloria literally took my money. All the first monies, I never saw a statement. I never saw how much it was. Before Lori Fernandez died, I went to her. She had created this beverage company in the Valley. And I told Tony to tell me she wanted to see me. When I went out there, her words to me, and this was about 4 months before she died, she said, Danny, she said, first of all, I want to say I'm sorry because I was party to something that was very bad. And I said, what are you talking about, Lori? Because I didn't know before then. I mean, that's the way it went, you know. And she said, well, we kept 2 books. She said, they wanted to make you think that you didn't sell that many records, that you weren't that popular. She said, Danny, you made Soul Unlimited records. You were the debut artist. Barry was established enough to go back in. He got a sizable amount of money. She said, but she said, I had to do what I was told. I do what I'm told. She said, but I want you to get a lawyer, and I want you to go in and audit this whole thing, and you will get your money. She says, you sold 110 albums, then 110,000 albums, and so many singles. I forget how many. She says, but she said, you made an impact. I mean, the world is aware of you. And I said, oh, really? And she said, yeah. And then she just apologized. And she said, what can I do I said, Lori, you've already done it. You've already done everything you need to do to make it up to me. I said, I love you, Lori, I always have. And I hope your company's a success. She was selling non-alcoholic beverages. That was where she landed after the Barry White, situation. And I never saw her again. That was it. I regret nothing. Absolutely. I regret that me and Barry didn't have more time to forge a musical body of work that I think would have been just, because we had what we needed. God had gave us the instruments that we needed to really do what we were trying to do. And it was just not just me. It was me. There was a few writers there that I found who could have helped shape Barry's label into something beautiful, Unlimited Gold. And remember now, Barry, we went against the grain. He was doing very well at 20th and all that stuff. He left to forge that relationship with Columbia Records because all Barry ever wanted to do was have a successful record company. Hence, Unlimited Gold. And I was the debut artist. And this is what he wanted. So he was on his way to doing what he wanted. But then politics, like I said, politics and money, I think the powers changed hands at Columbia. And so what Barry was promised, Barry got the money, but they didn't put the machinery behind him like they wanted to. They had started getting into all that, heavy metal, and Columbia was going through some changes, and Barry got caught up in it. So there's a lot of factors why things work and why they don't work, You're happy. Money don't make you happy, Nadine. I've been around a lot of awfully wealthy people, and I can tell you 99% of them are miserable. Money doesn't make you happy. Happiness comes from within. Happiness is a state of peace. You have to love yourself and be happy with yourself. Then money enhances that. It can help. But if you just want to go out there and say, I'm going to make a lot of money and be happy, you're going to find yourself that with money comes problems. I never got my money, so I'm strained financially. I can't really build a project studio I would love to build. However, now with the advent of this Pro Audio, I'm going to get, long story short, Nadine, I'm going to pick up an iPad Pro as soon as I can. And I've already written a lot of stuff, and I'm just going to start producing it and putting it together. I don't care about money, Nadine. I care about people. I care about profound things that take place on this planet that makes God smile. That's what I care about. Because in the end, that takes you further. You can't take the stuff with you anyway. And we can't take it with us. So why even live our life in pursuit of it? It's not happy. Happy is peace. Peace is when you're in tune with your neighbor. You love people as you would yourself. These are biblical truths that seem to wax poetically. Yeah. So that's where I stand. And yes, I definitely am in the process of trying to put together some things. I have a company I call Mobile Mania because I know the mobile sector is really where it's at right now. Working with my daughter, Danny, with her group, Terrorist Syndicate. We were on the phone last night. I said, baby, are you sure that's the name? She said, we've had this name 20 years. Before 9/11 made terror a bad name. Terror Syndicate was just to bring attention to what they're saying, But they just dropped a thing called Bulletproof Dashiki. And it just talks about the social unrest and the way things are in this world and stuff like that. And so I'm working with that, and in the process of putting together 4 sides for myself, so I could just, to be continued, so to speak. No one has really heard me since What You Signed, Girl. And, I just, like I said, I couldn't handle it anymore. From 73 to 1980, you have to understand those were 7 terrible years for me. Great in one sense, musically terrible because I was being suppressed. I didn't understand that, and I just stunted my growth, I believe. I mean, a prize fighter's in his prime, in his early 20s. So when you take that from him, you stunt the growth. But I never let it stop me. I still write. I have my fingers in the pulse. I embraced the internet and social networking. Even before that, I got into computer science, and I'm fluid on the computer platform, Mac OS, and as well as Windows. Dabble a little JavaScript, dabble with, So it's all coming together, Nadine. I guess I'm going to be like Dr. Seuss. Really beautiful time. So thank you, Father, our Father in heaven, for this opportunity, because me, Nadine, and a host of other kindred spirits exist at a time when we can really all put it together. If we can put it together in such a way now, Nadine, it's profound. I would love one day to come and see you. I would love one day to visit your country. I've been to Germany before, but I'm saying I would love to come in. Every era has to have writers who put it all together. Nadine, you strike me as a person that's capable of doing that. You're going to put it all together, so you're going to make it make sense. So the average person can read it and say, wow, so this is the story of, And I would like to say that I appreciate the adulation that my fans have given me. I never knew my reach was that far. And I appreciate your support and loving kindness. And yes, I'm going to be coming out with a body of work very soon. Expect it. And think of it as a to be continued. Danny Pearson, to be continued. We'll speak soon. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.